Is this the end for Tesla? Did Elon just get the dagger? And is BYD just going to take over the whole EV game, right? There's a lot of chatter going around that this Seagull model from BYD only costs $10,000 and everybody's going to buy a Seagull, even though right now it's I think in China. The sales are only in China, but it's so cheap, right? How can Tesla compete with a $10,000 car? And also BYD's new headline is that they released their self-driving to all of their models for free, and Tesla is in trouble, right? That's the narrative right now. Well, at least, I don't know if it's a narrative, but it's something I've been seeing, and I think it's personally laughable. I'm not trying to downplay BYD as a company, right? They have, they're doing great in China. They're probably like the top car company in China. If I had to, actually, we have the list, right? The best-selling cars in China, in the top 10, 4 of them are BYD. But there's a caveat here. The BYD Song and the Chin Plus, they're not pure EVs. They have lithium-ion battery cars, like models, but they're split. So you have some, like the Song model, you have some that is a hybrid that has takes gasoline, but you also have some that is pure EV, electric. So it kind of muddies the numbers. And is Tesla really in second place, or is Tesla, the Model Y, the best-selling car in China, even though it's so much more expensive than the Seagull? And why isn't the Seagull number one if it's so cheap and if it's such a disruptive car? That's what I want to get into today. There's two sides. There's the price, the perception from affordability, and then there's the good stuff, the software. Are they really competing with Tesla's self-driving? And I think that's the most interesting part. So first of all, let's analyze these cars. So this is the BYD Seagull, this first one right here. And this is the cheapest model that, is being talked about because it's $10,000 in China, USD. Top speed, 81 miles per hour, 74 horsepower. Now, this is a compact car built for China, maybe some parts of Europe. Yeah, I don't want to dig into it too much, right? There's a reason they're selling for $10,000, right? You have to make some trade-off. These are tiny cars. You can see some footage of them here, right? There you go, the BYD. This is the Seagull, specifically the 10K car. Here it is on the road. I think the tires are 12 inches, which is like a Subway sandwich. These are small cars. And if you've ever been to the United States, the cars here, different type of market. Sedans are big, the SUVs are big, trucks the best sellers. There's big roads. It's not like the Chinese cities or small European cities. The landscape here is different. And that's why if these cars were even allowed to be sold in the US, I just don't see them penetrating any meaningful amount of market share. Doesn't mean they're not doing it in China, they clearly are. But you gotta take a break when you're trying to put it side by side. The headline of this video is why Tesla should fear the BYD Seagull. Now you're putting that glorified golf cart next to a Model S or a Model Y. I don't think that's a fair comparison. First of all, it's like putting a $200 Samsung next to an iPhone Pro Max. Completely different ball game. Again, it's cheap. It's affordable. It's impressive that they can sell a car for $10,000. They don't have high margins on them. They're barely making money, but still impressive. And that's great that affordable cars are out there. Then you have the Dolphin model, which starting price in China is $14,000 US. Top speed, 93 miles per hour. So these are small, compact, not fast cars. Then you have the Auto 3. Starting at 17,000, 93 miles per hour. The range on these, by the way, is not that great, 200-mile range. And then you have the more luxurious model. And again, I picked these 4 because these are the pure EVs, from what I understand, that BYD sells. You have some models that are half hybrid, half pure EV, and there's a lot going on. But these are the 4 EV models that we can kind of talk about. And out of these 4, I feel this one should be the only one that's compared to a Tesla because it's somewhat on the luxurious side. Right, it has a 25 to 33K price range, which is still somewhat cheaper than, let's say a Tesla Model 3. And it has different trims, right? So you have the lowest trim at 25, and I'm guessing the highest one at 33K or more. Top speed, a little better, 112 miles per hour. Range, a little better. That's decent at 295 miles for driving range. Cars are cheap, so what? I think for the most part, people that kind of focus in on the cheapness of a car, how much it sells for, is the car reviewers, people that are into cars, right? They don't understand the back end business. They don't understand the lack of cohesion between the software of these cars and even the hardware, which, let's be real, self-driving, if you don't believe self-driving is the next big thing, not just in cars, but in life, right? You're going to be on the wrong side of the fence. And that's really the focus here. So let's talk about that part, because I think that's the part that is very misunderstood. And BYD just lacks cohesion in their fleet. In fact, I wouldn't even call it a fleet. Let's get into it. Recent headlines said BYD is offering their self-driving software to all their models for free, even this $10,000 one, right? So that's the headline that everybody runs. Oh my God, $10,000 car and it has self-driving. That's a dream. First of all, let me explain this. They have different levels. I think there's software driver assistance called the God's Eye. And as you can see here, there's 3 different versions. And the most basic one, I think, got rolled out to all the models for free, which it's not even full self-driving. It's like, think of like a glorified cruise control, which we had in like 1999, right? You put your car on cruise control, and in this instance, it can like keep you in the lane automatically. If the car needs to stop, it can automatically stop. So it's kind of like cruise control. You can't like drop it in a city and it can take you, 5-10 miles somewhere by itself. That's what got pushed out to all the models, right? Which is like, okay, who cares? But the problem is the lack of cohesion. They have a scattered hardware and software approach to their cars, which is similar to the Android smartphone approach. And here's why, right? I think iPhone versus Android is the best example here, because take a look at all the different models, Samsung models of their Galaxy. What is it, like 12, 13 different models? So the iPhone, we get one new iPhone every single year. And that comes in just 3 different like sizes, tweaks. So you have the iPhone Pro, and the iPhone Pro Max usually. But here you have 12 to 13 different phones that are on an annual refresh schedule. Different phones means different screen sizes, different software versions, different compatibility. If you don't believe me, ask an app developer, which one is easier? Is it Android or iOS to build an app in general? And when they tell you iOS is 10 times easier, I'm about to explain why. iOS, it's so much easier to build an app because you don't have 12 or 13 different phones with a bunch of different Android versions. And all 13 phones have people some might be on 3 versions old. Some are like 4 versions behind. And you have to modify, customize, tweak, and test for every single one of those versions, right? The lack of cohesiveness is why the App Store just crushes the Android or the Google Play Store. Like, that's why the App Store is so powerful and so successful. And you can argue the iPhone as well, because it has that cohesion. Right? I think as far as the iPhone goes, like 70% of iPhone owners, users are on the most recent version, like iOS, whether it's 18, 19, whatever we're on. And then the other 30 are either 1, 2, or 3 behind. But that's easy because you're building for like a much simpler like range of versions compared to the Samsung Galaxies, where you have 13 different phones with a bunch of different versions. Lacks cohesion. The ecosystem of the hardware or tech, in this case, let's say BYD versus Tesla, is very important. And going back to price, right? So speaking of price, shouldn't it, if people are logical and price is so disruptive in cars, technology, and markets, shouldn't the Galaxy F15 5G be the best-selling phone in the world? Because you can, on this Galaxy F15, you can check your Instagram, you can watch YouTube the same way you can on a $1,000 iPhone. So why isn't the $200 phone in everybody's pocket? Because price comes at a cost, right? You get what you pay for. There's more than just price. There's prestige, there's ecosystem, there's compatibility, and there's a lot of different factors, right? So just looking at a $10,000 car, like compact car like this, and saying, oh wow, this is a real problem for Tesla. Like, is it even a problem at all? I don't even know if they're in the same kind of like market per se. There's a headline I pulled up: Samsung overtakes Apple as world's top smartphone provider. They're always going back and forth. I think there's another headline: most sold smartphone in 2024, the iPhone 15. They go back and forth, but compare the 2 companies, Samsung and Apple. Apple is the biggest company in the world at like above $3 trillion, whereas Samsung is not even close. So why is that? If they have the cheapest, there's no cheap iPhone, right? There's no $200 iPhone you can get. So why are these expensive smartphones, the iPhones, why are they on top? So that leads me back to BYD's moat that people think they have, because they can produce these cars for such low cost, even though their margins are tiny. But it all comes down to self-driving. Right? We're not talking about today, okay, cool, they have really affordable cars, but self-driving, that is the key. So with Teslas, you can mirror that metaphor between Android and Apple. Okay, here's the problem with BYD's fleet and their lack of cohesion, right? So the God's Eye self-driving system is available in 3 versions, each utilizing different sensor technologies. So you have a problem there already, right? There is multiple versions. The God's Eye A is equipped with triple LiDAR sensors. Remember that, intended for luxury models under the Yangwing brand. God's Eye B features a single LiDAR unit, and God's Eye C just uses cameras and computer vision, right? Aimed at the more affordable models. So here's the difference. You take like the Seagull, this $10,000 car, and compare it to like this one. There's different hardware on this one that doesn't exist here, right? So you already have a fragmentation of like different updates and different capabilities. So they're not equal when it comes to self-driving. Even though we're talking about software, it should be software, but they're taking the LiDAR approach for the most part. So even for this car right here, the luxury models, the cheapest trim of the luxury model is not as good and well equipped for self-driving as the premium version. So even the same model but different trims is fragmented, because the most expensive trim has 3 LiDAR sensors, where the cheaper one has the base trim for the same model has 1 LiDAR sensor. And now you can go back through their whole entire selection of models and realize, wow, there's no cohesiveness. Whereas Tesla is taking the vision only approach, right? That's what they're moving towards, where their cheapest model, let's say the Model 3 base versus the most expensive model, Cybertruck or Model X, even the most expensive trim, they all have equal capabilities for self-driving, right? They all have, let's say, 8 cameras, and with one single over-the-air software update that can send to the cheapest model, could send it to the most expensive model, and everything in between. And now all the cars have the latest and greatest, right? That's cohesion. That's a valuable ecosystem. But like with BYD, they're just pumping out these like low-cost models. This one has 1 LiDAR, this one has 3 sensors, this one has no sensors. There's no cohesion. When self-driving really starts to become very useful, then a lot of these cars are going to get scrapped, or their value is just going to, even though they're already so cheap, people are going to want the self-driving. But even if they wanted to, they can't give the Seagull the latest and greatest self-driving software, because it doesn't have the LiDAR sensors that their more luxurious car has. So now what do? I'm just showing you how Tesla has a moat around their fleet, because they actually have a fleet that is cohesive, whereas BYD has a scattered hardware and software approach. And also they rely on third-party dealership for sale. They're not even direct to customer like Tesla. And I don't think any other car company is. In general, I think Tesla's the most vertically integrated, and on top of, I'm not gonna get into the bull case for Tesla, but they also own like 60% of the supercharging stations. I don't know if it's globally or in the US. So they're just vertically integrated all the way through and through. Whereas BYD, if your focus is who can make the cheapest car, yes, BYD definitely can. Not at a great profit. I think they make like $1,500 per car, something like that, which is like nothing. So they're relying on just a lot of volume. But then you got to ask yourself, why is Tesla leading the way or so high up in the charts in China as the best-selling car? If it's so expensive, why are people buying a Tesla? The same reason why people are buying iPhones when they could buy a $150 phone instead. There's quality there. There's some prestige. There's some brand likeness. It's more than just price. So a lot of the narratives that I've been, seeing. Also, here's another thing. The best selling, I recently looked it up before the video. The best selling and most popular smartphone brand in China is Vivo. I bet you have never even heard of this brand, right? So when it comes to China and their take on aggressively producing low cost, cheaper products, that's been the case. I can't really think of an example where a Chinese very, very cheap alternative has taken off and crushed whatever the previous leader in that category was. I just can't think of it, right? I think if your argument is affordability, then yeah, I'm not so sure that that's holding up, because Tesla would not be in the top 10 if that was the case, because they're probably out of the top 10 the most expensive model on here, yet they're still selling hot. And I think the Model Y refresh is sold out in China with it's just, there's no official sources, but even in China, Tesla's crushing it. Whereas BYD, I don't even think they're gonna come into the US market in general, right? Which is arguably probably one of the biggest markets. And even if they did, I just don't see them really being able to penetrate much. But again, I'm just trying to address the narrative of, BYD being this dark horse in the EV world. They're not even a pure EV company. They're not a leader in self-driving. They're a leader in sales when it comes to hybrids combined with EVs. Where's the leadership? In what category are they leading? Because I can't really see it, right? They don't have more revenue than Tesla. They definitely don't have more pure EV revenue, electric vehicle revenue, than Tesla. They're not more profitable, I don't think, than Tesla. The margins aren't better than Tesla. And the scattered software and hardware approach that they're taking is definitely going to bite them in the butt. So yeah, I would love to hear in the comments, anybody that disagrees, but I'm not really trying to shit on BYD as a company. Again, Chinese company, they're doing great over there. 3 of the top 10 best-selling cars. Doesn't matter if some of them are hybrids or whatever. That's cool. Providing small, compact, affordable models, that's a good thing, right? That's a positive. But to put them side by side, how in this video, he was putting the BYD side by side with Tesla, the Seagull at least side by side with the Tesla model, and talking about the price, that's like putting a $199 smartphone next to the iPhone Pro Max and saying like, hey, this one's so much cheaper, it's gonna crush the iPhone. Like, to summarize things, I think a great comparison when you're looking at BYD versus Tesla, it's the same as looking at like Samsung in the smartphone market, like Samsung versus Apple. I think that's exactly how this is playing out. And iPhone 15 being like the best-selling smartphone in 2024, at least I think this is for Q3. I don't know for the whole year, but logically, you're assuming people are going to flock to this $10,000 model, even if they ship it, by the way, outside of China and sell in the EU or other countries, they're going to have to pay, shipping, operational costs, maybe tariffs. For Europe, they have to pay like VAT, imports. And that 10K price point is going to go to 15,000 plus. And now it's not like this super insane, because people in like Europe, Eastern Europe are buying used gas cars for much less than $10,000 or $15,000. So it's not even something that is like jaw-droppingly appealing, right, in those markets. And I think also Brazil is a market for them. Again, so they're dealing with like the cheaper markets, compact cities, whereas Tesla is everywhere. And what BYD is doing is they're playing the race to the bottom game in pricing, but quality doesn't race to the bottom, it rises to the top. iPhone, again, I'll say it again and again and again, right? The iPhone is not competing with Samsung, who can get the cheaper phone. Apple does not care. They build amazing products with amazing ecosystems and cohesiveness between them, add a little prestige and some great branding, and you have Apple, you have a Tesla. That's how those brands are made. Right now, as I'm filming this, February 2025, Tesla is set to announce their affordable model, which is, kind of been kept very, very, very tucked in the next like 4 months. The first half of 2025 is when they said they're going to announce or launch their more affordable model, which will be produced on the same lines. So I think Tesla's edge is not only just cohesiveness, but they focus on 2 things and they do them really well: the production line and the software. With a cohesive model like the iPhone, Apple can launch an iOS update, and doesn't matter. Like I think this is like a 3-year-old iPhone. I know I have the same iOS, the same software as, let's say, my brother who has the brand new iPhone that just came out, right? That's cohesiveness. So Tesla focus on software and the production line, whereas BYD focus on the price. And that's their competitive direction that they're headed. It might be a problem. I don't know where Rivian and Lucid stand, because I think they're mostly US based. And again, I don't think these Chinese models are coming to the US anyway. But the other EV companies that are maybe competing for those markets that BYD is targeting, they might be in trouble, because how do you compete with a $10,000 car brand new off the lot, or like $14,000 car? We'll see. Tesla is doing just fine. They're expanding the fleet. They've refreshed the Model 3, the Model Y. Next up is probably the more luxurious cars, a Model S and X refresh. The Cybertruck is the hottest, selling car in the 6-figure range. At the end of the day, like, yes, I'm an investor in Tesla. I'm trying not to be biased, but genuinely, I just don't see a company that is a close second when it comes to the entire picture, right? Not just having a cheap car, not being able to put out models, not having like a lane keeping, self-driving, but having like the whole thing, right? Having a nice model, great branding, luxurious branding, even though it's actually very affordable now. You can get like a used Tesla for like 25K, 20K even, and the software, right? I think that's the leadership. And I saw a YouTube video where people were test driving Cruise, like GM's Cruise, and all the other, self-driving out there. And they put Tesla at like number 3, which is insane. I don't know how much they got paid to do that, but the clear leader at the moment right now is Tesla. And the market never thinks so in the midst of the climbing of the mountain. This has happened with almost everything. Netflix, I remember. Now everybody will bow down and say Netflix is the clear winner of the streaming wars. But just 2 years ago, when I was buying Netflix shares during the big tech bleed of 2022, everybody was saying Netflix lost the plot. That was the end of their business when they cracked down on household sharing, right? Everybody was like, oh man, they're going to lose so many subscribers, when in reality, those are like the everyday people that aren't really digging in. But it was pretty obvious that when they stopped account sharing, if one household is sharing with 4 other households and now you can't do that, the increase in subscriptions is about to go up 50%. It's about to go crazy because let's be real, people are not just gonna quit Netflix and like that's, oh man, I can't. I've been watching this for free for the last 10 years because I've been sharing an account with 5 of my friends. I'm just gonna stop. Like, no, you want to keep the shows are still hot. Like there's a big catalog. People want to decompress and watch TV. Like that was obvious. Just like how for me, self-driving is so obvious and Tesla being the current leader right now is so obvious. But the car reviewers, the people that are into cars, like knowing like engines and following all these blogs and stuff, they're not looking at the business. They're looking at, oh, Elon's crazy. He talks too much. It's damaging the brand. You know, these are all the same things that I heard with Netflix for the streaming wars, with like Apple for the smartphone. That's my personal opinion. Feel free to disagree with me in the comments, but the headlines I'm seeing and these like think pieces on how the BYD Siegel model being only $10,000 is such a problem for Tesla, I just don't see it because I see the bigger vision, right? I see the scattered hardware, the scattered software, the lack of vertical integration, and Tesla's the leader. That's how I'm gonna end it. See you guys in the next video.